Hi, so there's been another little PR wibbly wobbly thing at Blizzard again over the Mythic Plus cash issue, and they've been a bit disingenuous. So what I'm going to do in this video is to explain what happened, first of all, for those who may not know, to also talk about, the attitude with Blizzard in situations such as this. And then I think by the time I'm done ranting with it, some people may be thinking, well, you're blowing it out of proportion, aren't you? And okay, if it was just this little issue, I think that would be true. But I don't think I am, and I also want to explain that as well in the video. So effectively what has happened is in the beta, it was discovered that Mythic Plus cashers were generally giving like one piece, but there was a decent chance of getting two pieces, and there was a rare chance of getting three. Now, this wasn't just a few people discovering this. This became big news, as it would. A major source of gear for a lot of players who are going to be at least semi-serious is going to be the Mythic Plus cash. And it has a big effect because what it meant was, for even Mythic Raiders in the early parts of a tier, you would expect to get a significant amount of your gear, a much higher proportion than in Legion, from doing Mythic Plus dungeons, which you're going to do anyway. So this was something that was an actual discussion in the beta. It's one of those major discussions. And what Blizzard have tweeted now. So what's happened is there is only one piece dropping, and there's only going to be one piece dropping. It's not that you're unlucky if you've only got one, or that if everyone in your guild has got one, there's only going to be one for everyone, much like it was in Legion. Blizzard have said in a tweet that, oh yeah, for a few weeks in beta it was like this, but the intended design is that there's only going to be one piece. Now, here's the thing. Technically, if you want to be ultra backing up of Blizzard, you could say, well, they haven't denied it, because the implication is that it was an unintended bug. They've used that before, by the way. And it's not the first time that they've changed their mind about something. And this is a changing of the mind, and said, oh no, it was an unintended bug, because it's plausible. Because these things do happen. There are unintended bugs in the beta, and it's drawn to their attention, and they go, oh yeah, it's not actually supposed to work like that. We'll get right on that. That's not what happened here. There was plenty of discussion about it. It was a thing. And at the best, if you wanted to support Blizzard to the maximum, you could argue that knowing that it wasn't supposed to be the case, they chose to say nothing at all. But it went a little bit beyond that. But yeah, if you want to back them up, you could say, well, they've said that it happened in the beta, and they've said that it is the case that it's not going to do that now. So you could argue, you could insert a sentence in the middle of all that saying, but we changed our mind and now it's only going to be one, and it's all totally consistent. But that is not what they're suggesting by their message, because they've not said, oh, we've changed our mind. And the maddening thing for me is, if they'd have just said that, people have noted that it's only dropping one. So we had duff information right up until the point at which it happened. That's not a big deal for me, because a few reasons why. First of all, it hasn't changed people's behaviour. I don't believe that anyone has said, oh, I'm going to push some Mythic Plus keys because we can get up to 3 pieces of loot from it, but I wouldn't bother if it was only one. I don't believe anyone is in that boat. If any of them, if several are worth it, one's worth it, just much as it was in Legion. The other thing is, I actually think it's a good change. I didn't like the fact that you could, it was quite difficult knowing exactly what it would be, whether it would be, you'd probably get an average of 3 pieces every 2 weeks or 4 pieces every 3 weeks, but you were going to get certainly an average of more than one a week. And I didn't like that at all, because especially when this happened, I was still going to be a Mythic Raider, and I was thinking, well, I'm going to be getting the bulk of my gear early on from this cache. It might be better, and I would expect to begin with, it would be better than the stuff I can get from raids, because it'll be high item level, because I can do a plus 10 straight away as a raider. I haven't done as a casual, but as a raider, I could be doing a plus 10 right from week 1 and getting that mythic quality gear while I'm still progressing through the mythic bosses. So most of my gear in those first few weeks is actually heroic gear, maybe with the odd wolf or something like that, and the mythic gear from the very early bosses. So, I didn't like it at all as coming from a Raiders point of view. So if they'd have just announced yesterday that, we've changed our mind, we thought it was going to put, too much proportion of your gear coming from Mythic Plus for people who don't just do Mythic Plus, be in full support of it. So for me, it's not the fact that it's a minor thing that didn't change anyone's behaviour and they've changed it and who the hell cares. Because if it was that I was complaining about, I'd absolutely agree. I'd be blowing it out of proportion. Totally agree. That's not what the issue is. The issue is the way they've tried to suggest that it was never the intention, because it was. And as I say, it's not the first time they've done it. And there have been times in the past when they've just told outright lies as well. Obvious lies. Very famously in Warlords of Draenor, they talked about the various features that were going to be in Warlords of Draenor. And then when they had to shelve a lot of it, because we all know why they had to shelve a lot of it, the project got out of their hands. It was too much. And to be fair, I think there was too much pressure on the development team to do something quite unrealistic. And they decided to shelve a lot of things to put extra resources into Legion to make sure that Legion hit the ground running. And I think it absolutely did. So I think at the time it was pretty crap, but where we are now, we'd probably go, yeah, we're glad they did that. Maybe. Some people may not. I'm glad they did that. But nonetheless, there were things that had to be shelved. Now, if they'd have either just said nothing, or they'd have said, well, yeah, we had to, it all went a bit wibbly wobbly, and we had to go and do, to get Legion right, and so, a few things had to fall by the wayside. Which happens, even in very successful expansions. Some pieces of planned content didn't happen. I mean, better to plan for more content than you can deliver than not enough, isn't it? So that's totally understandable. If they'd have just said, we had to drop a few things, that would have been fine. And, it would have been disappointing because some of that content people were really looking forward to. But we'd have understood. It's the fact that they lied. They went, no, we didn't say we were going to do that at all. It's like, when you say something, it's recorded. If you say something at a convention, it's recorded. If you say something on a forum, it's recorded. Why are you telling such stupid lies? And that's what annoys me. And you think to yourself, try and think about the motivation. What are they trying to do by trying to pretend that it was never an intention in the first place? Is it because they're having to change so many things, they don't want to appear that they're changing their mind on too many things? That would be silly. That would be foolish. Because think about it. What have they done recently since BFA? They've improved the auction house system. But one thing that is most definitely a change of mind, they completely reversed their position on being able to trade Azerite gear, for which they got a lot of credit. Massive amount of credit. No one was going, oh, well, why didn't you do that in the first place? Right? People were just delighted they did it. And so there would not have been any criticism if they'd have just come out on a tweet. That the people who wanted more loot may have done, but in terms of actual criticism, no one would have criticised it really if they'd have just come out and said, yeah, sorry, we changed our minds. People may have been a bit upset that there was no communication, but like I say, on an issue like this, it didn't change anyone's behaviour. Of far more concern when it comes to communication is class design, because people have selected classes to play, which they've now invested a lot of time in, a lot of artifact power and all the rest of it, and to find out that Blizzard are not actually putting enough work in fixing some of the common weaknesses, which people might have expected to be fixed by the time raids opened. That's a more serious issue when it comes to communication. This particular issue is not. It's really about the line issue. So let's say it's not that they just want to avoid looking foolish by changing their mind all the time. What else could it be? It's difficult to say. Is it just good old-fashioned contempt for the player base? Because that seems to be a thing. Someone was noting on forums yesterday, they were saying, oh, how come there's hardly any blue posts now? Ironically, it got a blue post answer, but a community manager. But that's a fact. It is just a fact. The developers are much less conspicuous on the forums now. That is a notable change, and it's a deliberate change on the part of the development team. And it's disappointing. So there is an absence of communication. And the reason for that seems to be, again, a bit of a hangover from Warlords of Draenor. There's a bit of a them and us situation. They regard us with deep suspicion, which is pretty negative. And none of this will detract from the fact I still hold Blizzard to be a great gaming studio. I still hold that they're a studio who produces great quality content. I'm still playing it. I'm no longer playing it seriously. I'm playing it as a casual. For me to be playing this as a casual as much as I am, it's still a great game. There's still far more positives than negatives. But it's just disappointing when, although the product is pretty good, it's not even the fact that it could be better, anything could be better. It's the fact that there's so much disdain towards the player base, because to say something like this, anyone in the know, anyone who pays close attention to the way things go on, knows full well that this is a lie. Everyone will have presumably seen the responses to this. People know that this is Blizzard basically lying. So who are they saying it for? They're not fooling anyone. So who they're saying it for are those people who maybe not paying close attention, or what they perceive as being. They're basically saying, we think that the majority of the player base are idiots. In fact, enough of them to drown out the people who really know what's going on and make them just look like they're whining. That's basically the bottom line of it. But anyway, before I go on too much further, I'd naturally sort of talk about communication at this point, but I think that's probably a topic for another video. So that's my take on it anyway. Let me know what you think in the comments below, of course. As I say, the issue itself, relatively minor is how I would summarise it. It's the behaviour that I think is a serious issue, and that's why I think it's not really blowing it out of proportion to be upset at what Blizzard have done about this. I think it's quite valid because it's the behaviour that is the problem, not the fact that they've changed something. The thing that they've changed, I think, is a good thing anyway, and even if you don't, it didn't change any behaviour anyway. So let me know what you think in the comments below. As I say, if you did enjoy the video, then please like, comment, subscribe, and share with others who might also be interested. Until next time, I'll see you later.